We had just moved into a brand new house in a brand new housing development. A lot of the houses around us were either unfinished or had families that just moved in. Behind our house was a field, mostly for more future houses. We lived in a fairly safe, small city, and the housing development was very quiet, so for the first few years we lived there, we never bothered to lock the doors. Even at night, most of the time it was just something we never thought about. My parents had just put in hardwood floor, so the house was a pretty echoey, single story. One night, as I was laying in bed trying to fall asleep, I thought I heard the back sliding glass door open. I was up late on the internet, but everyone was asleep, so the house was quiet. I had my door slightly open so my cat could come and go, and so that I knew I was definitely hearing something. I froze, hoping it wasn't the door, but a moment later, I heard it slide shut. Then I began to hear what sounded like heavy shoes walking across the hardwood floor. It was a very specific sound, and suddenly I couldn't breathe. The footsteps were slow and quiet, like they were trying to make as little noise as possible. But because the floor was wood, and our house had high ceilings, the steps echoed down the hallway to my room. Then I heard them stop, the sound of the hallway closet being opened, and then the door quietly clicking shut, like they turned the knob, pulled the door closed, and then released the knob once it was in place. It was silent after that. My heart was beating so fast and I began crying. The only way to my parents' room was up the hallway. Their door was only about 20 feet away from where that hallway closet was. I was frozen, and I honestly thought I would pee my pants because I was so scared. However, it was silent for long enough that I knew I had to get my dad, so I stood up and walked sock-footed to my door. I stood there for a long time breathing. Then I ran. It's not a long hallway, but I went as fast as I could. I got inside the room and tried to wake my dad up. "Dad, Dad," I was frantically whispering. "Huh?" He was half asleep. "Dad." "Huh? What?" "Dad, I think there's someone inside the house." "What?" "Get up. I think there's someone inside the house." "There's no one in here. Go back to sleep." "Yes, there is." And I started crying. That gets him up. My mom also wakes up at this point as well, so they both get out of bed. My dad, sure, there's no one in the house, doesn't even grab something as a weapon, but I follow behind him as he leaves the room. He goes into the living room, passes the closet, turns on all the lights in the house, and I remember standing in the living room, knowing exactly where the person was and not being able to say anything. He tells me, "Look, there's no one." He doesn't even check the closet though. I'm so afraid that whoever's in there will jump out with a knife and kill my dad in front of me, and the 13-year-old me keeps thinking I can't be responsible for my dad's death, so I say nothing. And I don't tell him to check the closet. I don't know why he didn't, because if I were a dad, I would've. He locks the front door and tells me to go back to bed. They wait until I'm back in my room before they close their own bedroom door and go back to sleep. Again, the house is silent, and I'm laying there afraid because that person is still in here in that one place he didn't look. Suddenly, I hear the closet door open. Just as slowly and quietly as before. Then the footsteps again. I could hear them so clearly walking towards the kitchen where the back door is, and they stop. That's followed by the sound of the back door being slid open and then quietly being pushed closed again. I hear the back door click into place, and then the house is silent. I'm laying there crying and breathing but hearing them leave the house. I felt instant relief, though I was still shaking with fear. I gave it a few minutes hoping they wouldn't come back, and they don't. So after a bit I sneak out there. My one and only thought is to lock the back door, which I managed to do, but the scariest part was that when I looked at the hallway closet, the door wasn't closed anymore. It was cracked because they hadn't bothered to close it after they left, though I know it was definitely closed when my dad was out there with me. I tried bringing it up to them years later, and they still didn't believe me. But that's just not something you hear every day.